It is my pleasure to join you once again at the Smart City 360-degree conference. I'm managing an intergovernmental research and innovation program dealing with sustainable urban development and urban transitions. And in this context, I was able to follow and regularly reflect on the smart city concept and its role for transforming our cities and urban areas. I therefore would like to use the opportunity to share some of these reflections and discuss a bit the evolution of the smart city concept over the last more than 10 years now, as well as discuss the role digitalization is going to play in our own program of JPI Urban Europe and the next phase coming up pretty soon. So let's travel back to about 2010, when the smart city concept was sort of going into full swing. The technological opportunities that digitalization offered were widely explored. A lot of sensors were implemented and tested. Data was collected all over the place. Different experiments were taking place to understand how we could establish new ways of monitoring the city, of visualizing what happens in the city in real time, or of developing scenarios. So it all turned up to something like a very fancy control room setting, like given here on the picture, that allows us to understand what is going on in our cities and neighborhoods. However, while it easily raises the impression that we grasp the complexity, that we really see what is going on in our cities through these experiments and this monitoring, we at the same time miss out and neglect important aspects of urban life that we cannot actually catch through digitalization, and that we then also neglect in our planning and the systems and services we may want to implement. So we did a bit of an analysis on about that time, the early 2010s, on what kind of urban developments, strategies, if you will, are in place. And there were many, right? There were ambitions towards sustainable cities, towards inclusive cities, resilient cities, smart cities, and many, many others. And the analysis was carried out by Martin de Jong and colleagues, allowed us to understand where we are with these different developments. So what we see here, and this is a bibliometric analysis of citations and articles in the literature, is easily to understand that there is a rather complex community addressing sustainable city issues, maybe from different points of view. On the other hand, the smart city at that time was quite detached from the sustainable city development, which raised some concerns on what role does it play, right? Is it that smartness is a goal in itself, which was, I think, supported by some people at that time, to see if we go smart, this will sort out all our issues. But it raises concerns how these developments, and of course many others, how they interplay and what they really mean in order to come to sustainable, nowadays climate neutral cities and neighborhoods. So if we fast forwarding a bit to today, I think there was a quite strong development that was taking place, because mainly the cities were soon after this kind of hype that took place on smart city developments, understood that the technologies are an enabler, but they are not a mean in itself, right? They put the digital development in the context of their overall strategies. So already in the early 2010s, the smart city, the city of Vienna, in their smart city strategy, put this within the context, and this is now the updated version, the new strategy that was recently launched, to bring into this potential of digitalization into the context of overarching aims like climate change, resource efficiency, resource conservation, resilience in the wider sense, inclusiveness, cohesion in our cities. And digitalization, of course, can play quite a strong role in that. Also, an analysis published recently indicates that there was quite a shift from the first phase of tech-oriented tech-focused approaches to a more people-oriented approach where digitalization is embedded within a wider context and sort of finds its place. And I think this is a development that is still ongoing. We see still different opinions on what the smartness should be. Is it sort of an ambition on its own? Is it connected to other developments? How fast, how much can we drive this technological development, and at the same time do not leave the people because they may not be able to anticipate these potentials. So besides that development over the last 10 years, there are some maybe more recent developments that also are important to consider when looking into the role of digitalization in the urban transition context. And that is that cities really gained importance, that they are very much in the focus of attention when it comes to global sustainability. So looking into recent strategies, it becomes quite obvious that cities play a major role in moving ahead, in transforming our societies, and that we really need to get our cities right, that we need to give more focus and priority to the urban setting. And in that context, also the digital dimension has to be considered and well understood. At the same time, the pandemic situation, the pandemic crisis that we have also underlines the potential of digitalization, the role it may play, that we need to find new approaches towards sustainable urbanism and create new approaches how we design our cities in the future to make them resilient, still providing people the quality of life that they are aiming at. So one of the key comments or statements I think that I like to raise in that regard is the clear understanding and confirmation that if we want to achieve our sustainable development goals, achieve our main ambitions, we need to get our cities right. And I think this is an important message and an important framework also towards our topic of today on the smart city and digitalization, because this focus on urban development, on cities and their role in the global context result in manifold strategies and policies, right? If you look into starting from the sustainable development goals and the urban agenda down to European strategies, quite recent ones on the Green Deal, the emphasis on becoming climate neutral, the mission, the city mission that was defined by the Commission and is now going into implementation, the wave of also a new bottom-up community building to transform our cities with the new European Bauhaus. So there are many aspects that are now highlighted, that are now provided as frameworks for action in our countries and in our cities. And they are complemented by many transnational activities, support measures, and frameworks that should help cities to move ahead, and of course provide a framework for companies, local initiatives, everyone that has a stake in the urban development. So when looking at that, we easily see that there is quite a complexity behind that, right? So using the SDGs and SDG 11 as a main entry point towards that, the SDG 11 as the urban goal towards sustainable cities and communities covers many different aspects, right? Starting from energy efficiency to affordable housing, sustainable mobility or zero emission mobility and transport, inclusive neighborhoods. Many aspects are already included in this. However, if we zoom out a bit, looking at the SDGs, as such, there is a very strong urban dimension cross-cutting all of these SDGs, right? So whenever you're looking into other thematics, other sectors, when it comes to energy or mobility or poverty or climate adaptation or others, there is an urban dimension to that. And the conclusion from this is that these different aims and ambitions are, of course, strongly interlinked. And while some of these goals are supporting each other, maybe even reinforcing each other, others are not. Others may be in conflict. Achieving one ambition may hamper achieving another one. So what we need to understand is where the critical issues are, where these different strategies are counteracting in some way, where they cause dilemmas, as we call it, where we need policy action to deal with these wicked issues that are created. And this is where we need to build the capacities. This is where we need to build new solutions and approaches to overcome these bottlenecks, because we can't achieve our overall ambition when we are stuck in lock-ins, when we're stuck between different trade-offs and conflicting objectives. So we in our agenda, when we developed that in 2018 and 19, we explicitly tried to address those issues. We wanted to identify and address these conflicting issues, and sort of identifying the top issues, the top dilemmas that we need to address in order to get urban transition going, that we can support cities. And one of these is regarding digital transitions and urban governance. And that's what, just an example I would like to highlight, because the potential of digitalization to transform our cities, to be more efficient, to be more resource effective, they are clearly there. But at the same time, we need to understand how we can avoid potential risks and inequalities, right? That we exclude people that are not the digital natives, that are not that easily connected to our digital environment, what it means for value chains, for the consequences of jobs, and also privacy issues, of course. And not all of that has been sorted out yet, certainly. So this complexity of understanding and anticipating the potential of digitalization also in the administration, in the city, in the cities and municipalities, how they can exploit it in terms of having a wealth of data available to make better decisions, of balancing different interests maybe more easily. I think this needs to be well understood, how these tools, these methods can be applied without creating additional or other kinds of risks and externalities. So zooming in a bit on that, the digitalization certainly is an amazing resource that helps to improve our infrastructures, our services. Given that we dealt with all these data sovereignty, with required regulations, privacy, it also includes opportunities for new urban economies and innovative urban planning, bringing different data together and allowing a more comprehensive understanding of different potentials, developments in a neighborhood. I think that's a strong improvement, using digital twins for planning and about developing different scenarios. Also in circularity and urban economies, creating that in the city, bringing some thought of new economies to our cities, there is a huge potential. And finally, the third layer is really enabling the people, right? Digitalization to a wide extent allows citizens to engage in a new way in urban development. It also may help to empower them to be part of that, to shape their urban environments. But for that, in order to play out and take use of these potentials, as mentioned, we need to deal with the potential inequalities. It is also a big issue about ownership and availability of data. What we hear is that many cities claim that they need to get back hold on their own data about the city, right? A lot of that is privatized. Companies are really collecting a lot of data and information also about the city, but it's not all there. It's not all available to make better decisions in the municipality or on other sides of stakeholders and maybe even citizens to make their choices. And of course, it needs the understanding, the capacities, the knowledge, how we deal with the potential tools and opportunities of digitalization connected to poverty, gender, connected to marginalized groups and neighborhoods, and what effects this digitalization can help to overcome or that it potentially may cause. So this is just a bit of framing what we discussed in the context of our research and innovation agenda, which we are about to implement in our next program. And in order to dig deeper into specific areas and indicate where we are going to spend efforts and resources, providing funding for projects in the future, I would like to dig a bit deeper into our upcoming program, and I hope that this is of interest to you. So our next program hopefully will start next year. It's not fully set yet, but it's continuing our intergovernmental program on driving urban transitions with the ambition to really bring knowledge to the decision makers, to the people, so that it's not only about the scientific evidence and knowledge, but it is about bringing the knowledge into practice, letting people act on the evidence that is created with research and innovation. And we will set up a wide set of measures. But maybe what is more important here in this regard is the thematic orientation, right? So we are very much convinced that we need to continue with integrated approaches for urban transformation, that we need to ensure entry points towards urban climate neutrality and the wider sustainability of cities and urban areas. And for that, we have selected 3 thematic priorities. And one is on positive energy districts and neighborhoods, which should help to transform the urban energy system, embedded, of course, in the wider regional European energy system, if you will. This is mainly to help design neighborhoods, not only single houses that are energy efficient, but really neighborhoods, a compound of buildings that produces more energy that it consumes and balances different energy sources. And in this regard, of course, digitalization is one of the key drivers. On the other hand, we would like to investigate more strongly how our mobility system can look like. And we are following the principles of the 15-minute city approach. So we don't take it literally, no, but the principles of redesigning our neighborhoods, that they are multifunctional, that they offer room for more active mobility, that they are taking use of different options to move in the city in a very zero emission way, if you will, is important. And this also goes back to how we redesign space. And of course, also in that regard, digitalization is essential when it comes to maybe reducing the need to travel at all, right? May that be home office, working in home office, or how we cover our shopping. And we have proven that things are possible to quite an extent that was not imaginable a few years back. And in between, we try to connect that through our circular urban regenerative economies. So to understand how we can rebuild our urban economies, becoming more circular, but also greening the city and transforming the cities, that they really exploit the potential towards donut economy approaches. And also, of course, quite certainly, digitalization has a role in the circular economy per se, how we use resources, how we bring them back, how we design new urban economies per se, finding new jobs, new services, intermediaries on different layers. So as an example, let me give, to become more concrete, the positive energy district case. And this is just a sketch identifying and highlighting the issues that need to be considered when dealing with or realizing a positive energy district. So this is not just by putting technologies of whatever sort into our buildings and managing it right. This is a complex endeavor to understand the interrelationships of buildings using different energy sources, depending on on the geographical territorial conditions that there are, the interlinkages with the overall electricity grid, including mobility aspects, and of course, including the people that need to deal with that need to live there, that need to be able to use that technology as well, and engage hopefully in those developments. So the opportunities for digitalization are quite manifold, right? And they start by the technological aspects of smart grids and how we monitor the data, how we are able to balance and managing the prosumer behavior to balance out the different needs over time in our electricity grids. It continues by the big data issue and how we go about the planning of these neighborhoods, right? How we visualize that, how we maybe use digital twins or other methods that help us to understand early on the potential to reduce energy, to be more energy efficient, to use different aspects in the planning process directly. It continues then, of course, towards the mobility solution and integrating them well, in particular when it comes to electric mobility. How can that be balanced? How can that be communicated? How can these strategies be implemented? But then, besides these rather infrastructure-related issues, we need to be aware of the consumer, the people that need to deal with that. It's, of course, on their end that they need to manage these technologies and systems. But beyond that, they are involved in the design of those neighborhoods. They should have tools to participate. The issue of energy communities coming up quite strongly in some of our European countries, where the communities themselves take a strong role in how these new energy systems will look like. And of course, that's a matter of understanding, of raising awareness of changing behaviors, to bring information to the user, to the citizen, in a way that they understand how they can improve their energy consumption, what they may need to change in order to be more energy efficient. And of course, part of that is the communication. How can we bring these issues to the people? What tools and methods can we apply to provide them and create a dynamic around those developments? So there is plenty of issues that we need to deal with in the positive energy district context, topics that we are certainly picking up to develop new concepts, to understand the implications of digitalization with the planning and with other sectors, and with a strong perspective and attention to the governance aspect, to provide method and tools to the municipalities or the utilities or real estate, that they can prepare well, that they understand the potentials of positive energy districts early on. And of course, about mobilizing the people and giving them information at hand to make proper choices. The second example that I would like to offer here is on the 15-minute city, which really includes, again, many different aspects, from how we are doing the shopping, how we include make schools available, different infrastructures for the people, the green areas that need to be accessible, available, and which kind of a transport infrastructure we put in place that in the best case is zero emission, support walking and cycling, the active modes, but at the same time strengthen public mobility, public transport, so that we certainly reduce the need to drive a car. And that helps, of course, redesigning our neighborhoods entirely. And also in this setting, we see many aspects of digitalization when we need to understand and manage public spaces and the traffic, where digital tools that provide the information in real time, that allows to do scenarios and some forecast on what is expected when, helps, of course, certainly to understand the opportunities for designing the space and maybe reducing and offering more public space for the people. It continues with the models how we can reorganize ourselves, right? Understanding the opportunities of, let's call it, virtual mobility, not traveling at all, and the consequences it may have, right? We all experienced in many lockdowns how it feels when you got stuck in your home and not allowed to travel or spend much time outside. So we need to balance that. But certainly the last month showed us how we can serve our needs and cover our needs by reducing our mobility. And this goes back to a very wide extent to the digital opportunities that are offered. Furthermore, it goes back to the planning, right? The opportunity to simulate, to model, and to, again, based on real-time data, on comprehensive sets of data of the city, of the streets, of different modi, how they multimodal interplay, how we can bring people and route people through the city through very complex algorithm, but hopefully for the people in a very efficient and effective way. And so data per se can be seen as a key enabler in that regard. And also these issues will be addressed in our program in the upcoming years to understand the role of digitalization, of reducing the need to move in the city or shorten the travels, and how it supports the redesign of our neighborhoods, still balancing it out with community building measures, with active modes and the like. So with that, I would like to draw as the main conclusion maybe that when we look into the smart city concept and these digital approaches, there are huge potential in that still, right? We have explored a bit, but there is so much still to do. However, when doing that, it's not only about the what, it's not about what kind of service or what kind of smart fancy application is possible, but we need to understand if and how this solution helps the people, improves the quality of life, helps us to tackle a wider societal challenge. And it's not just for the implementation of a new system, but that it has to serve a global ambition, and that it very much relates to how we are doing that we are including the people right from the start, that we also use these digital technologies to co-design, to co-create, to deal with this complexity and with these dilemmas right from the start. So overall, I think there are various layers that digitalization plays a role, but I would like to encourage you to consider this wider context when you're taking your next challenges and investigating the new potentials, exploiting them in the years to come, so that they are well embedded in the overall ambition and that they are designed in a way that they are easy to be taken up in implementation, that we also use it for building the capacities in municipalities, in cities, in society, so that we can really achieve our ambitions maybe more timely and more easily. So I will close with that, and I would very much hope to see many interesting solutions coming up in the years to come, hopefully also in the framework of our program. And yeah, I would be happy to continue that discussion one way or the other. Thank you.